everybody, I'm Jay from Dusty Towers, and it's been one hell of a year. By the time Devlog 12 came out, the virus had just started hitting hard in the US, and I had no idea what this year of development had to offer. But that being said, I'm really happy with how much progress has been made this year. But first, I must say what this is. This is a series where I discuss the progress made on my current game, currently titled Project Frost and Flames. This is the second year anniversary for these devlogs, and today I will be going over the progress made over the course of this year, this March, and my plans for the future. But first, let's simply start out with the progress made over the last year of development. April was a pretty good time for this year, as I finally got around to making the first real dungeon with like actual puzzles and stuff, and I finally got to the part of the game where the characters start getting strong and learning actually decent skills and have to fight actually difficult bosses, and they actually have to make unique strategies on how to take enemies out. This month was also when we removed the gridless movement due to the numerous bugs it caused. The last thing to mention in April was the creation of the Dusty Towers Twitter, where all news from the Project Frost and Flames related stuff is announced. You know what to do. Follow me on Twitter. May was also a really good month for progress. I got around to finishing the dungeon I had started in April, as well as beginning the start of yet another dungeon. And this month was also where the first ultimate skill in the game was ever created, and I haven't made one since. Jokes aside, we all will add more eventually, but right now, there isn't much to add. This devlog also introduced the EX bosses, which was something I was planning on adding for a while, but I only got around to doing it then. Along with the EX bosses came SOS items, a type of item that can only be used in battle and have a limited number of uses per battle. In June, I had finished yet another dungeon, and along with that came new bosses, puzzles, classes, etc. However, the big thing advertised in this devlog was not the new dungeon, but the impossibly difficult boss. This is the Timebreaker, an optional boss that would eventually reside in the Void, and would be a very difficult to defeat enemy. It would probably be late game boss with ultra strong rewards for beating it, and if you take the time to do so anyways. But right now, it's there to incentivize the player to try and stay out of the Void, or at least not be there for more than 15 minutes. July has new content similar to June and May. A new dungeon, new classes, new skills, new puzzles, new bosses, the usual. However, I also added a plugin that changes the battle transition to be a bit more unique compared to other MV games. With this came the introduction of treasure beasts, rare monsters that when killed drop a lot of EXP and gold, the first one of which being the gold slime. I also added a new story boss that is, well, interesting. I still don't plan on spoiling what that boss is, so feel free to think about what it could be while waiting for the demo to be released. In August, I changed the way devlogs were written. Instead of doing live commentary showing off what I made in one big long video, I instead wrote a script as I made progress. You'll see what I mean by this once I reach the section of progress made over March. I had created a design for the next dungeon on top of that, and I had begun making the first explorable capital in the entire game. The capital that would later become FNF City. And to the south of the city lies an autumn-looking woods, which I expanded by adding more paths and stuff, making the woods larger and more explorable. I added more weapons and a deserted valley-looking place called Hell Valley, where you fight a side quest boss, and then I finally got around to expanding space-time to be an actual explorable area instead of an area that just exists in cutscenes. And alongside that, I added portals to space-time that would act as a pseudo-fast travel system, let's say. September had the same stuff as usual. A new dungeon in the form of the Act 1 final dungeon, the Subspace of Time. I added a new variety of bow weapons that the player can use for things like damage and accuracy increases. And for a while, there were no unique bows, so this was a long time coming. On top of that, I finished adding a side quest that I've been working on for a while, and after that, I added the final boss of Act 1, and this actually brings us to a unique state where the demo is technically done, and it's in a state where I can theoretically release it now. However, I thought that there wasn't enough content in the game in the demo to be released yet, and it just overall wasn't as polished as I would have preferred, so I had decided to postpone the potential release date for later. Spooky month rolls around, and in turn, progress was made. I revamped some of the old content in the Subspace of Time dungeon by adding new unique mini-bosses to replace the old boring ones, and I expanded the eastern part of FNF City by adding a hint system, so the player knows where to go for the main story. I also edited some maps to make exploration more bearable, and I added a few secret maps that are there to just add some more detail, I guess. And then, near the end, I began working on the Natian capital, D.R.G City. This is also where we gained a new member of the team, Oro Yissus, who would be doing the art for the game, which is exciting to say the least. In November, I finished adding the new capital, as well as adding the interior maps for the buildings there. I added some new enemies, and most importantly, a new quest which results in the addition of multiple weapons and other equipment. Along with these weapons came unique skills for said weapons, and on top of that, this month also had a blessing from our savior Oreo, which is the nickname for Oro from earlier. Uh, he gave us new icons for the game, which look amazing, I may add. like, play the game and you'll see what I mean. They look amazing. Shoutouts to Oreo for doing so well on those. In December, I expanded the Void and added a special shop here that can only be found there. And then I added yet another capital in the country of Tari, which is the desert area, and it's called Sylvanda City. The interior was added, and I began my journey to connect all these cities by land via a series of paths in the overworld. Besides that, though, I didn't do much else. I'm gonna be honest with you. In January, a new year had begun, and I was hoping to make some progress. I continued creating explorable maps, and I was also able to get my bug tester and friend Magic to help with map making, which surely has increased the speed at which progression is made, which is nice. I also created with more path maps before I got bored and switched to working on the capital of Escati, which is the kind of grass plains kind of country. This is also where I learned what my city maps were lacking, which led to the expansion of the capital maps to feel more like big cities, which is, good, in my opinion. February is the last month, so we'll quickly sum it up. During February, I finished the volcano exterior and the volcano interior, and along with that, I added a few new enemies, all of which I like a lot, and I created more consumable items and equipable accessories, and on top of that, I had created the specialized weapon shop in Ascati, meaning the city was almost complete. At the time, I thought it was complete, but you'll see later that I was wrong. And that sums up all the progress made over the past 11 months, though, so let's dive right into the 12th month of development in this year. Let's look over March. This week was hellish, as it's my final week for the second trimester of school. However, today I finished the last two tests, and tomorrow is the last day of school before spring break, meaning I will finally be all good for a large amount of time. So, to celebrate, I made some progress on Frost and Flames. I realized that I hadn't actually finished the Escadian capital map, as I forgot to map the monster attack bunker interior, so I did that, and on top of that, I added a few other things that I'm not going into detail yet because, oh, well, I forgot. Today was honestly forgettable. I think I finished the spring cave map that can be accessed via the path to the left of Millstone. I forgot to write the entry for the 6th day. I recorded it, so I'm writing this on the 8th, actually, and events that just transpired kind of lead to me forgetting what I even did on the 6th. You'll see what I mean in about 3 to 2. 1. So today I created a large map to the right of the residence space, which feels kind of weird because there has never been anything there for the entirety of this project up until now. And it feels nice to actually have something there. But that's not the important thing. That's not the thing I care about. The thing that made this day so memorable was the sheer amount of lag. You see, I decided to test how some events worked, and suddenly, every 5 steps or so, the game would drop to 0 frames for nearly half a second, which was weird, because it didn't do that before, and it only happened when traversing the overworld. It only happened when moving, it didn't happen when standing still, it didn't happen when navigating through menus or getting into battle. It didn't result in lag at any of those times. I first thought I pulled a GAMEDEV and had a large common event containing a lot of pseudocode running every frame. And that was true. I did have a common event running every frame with a ton of pseudocode. But that wasn't the cause of the lag. It turns out the cause of the lag were passive status effects, or passive states. Basically, they are status effects that the player is inflicted with all the time. They cannot be removed from the user, ever, and they are usually inflicted when a skill is learned or when a certain piece of equipment is held. However, due to an error I made when trying to understand the plugin, I ended up having 55 passive states on all 5 actors inflicted at the same time. No wonder there was so much lag. And yes, that was actually the result of the lag, as after finishing the issue, it worked just fine. No lag at all, and after fixing that, I built a new version of the game and released it to my bug tester friend Magic so that he could just play the game without experiencing that. Today is Mario Day, or rather, March 10th. Did I do anything related to that fact? No. I just thought it was cool. Anyways, today I expanded the Dida city outskirts to seem more like a large city, instead of just a glorified town. I then went to the glittery lake map and added an enemy encounters to the area, so no, there's actually danger and stuff. After that, I created a new map, and it's the last map connected to the good old Millstone Village. It's a dense forest path that doesn't have anything interesting about it, at least right now. And there are no encounters yet, but trust me, cool stuff awaits. It will eventually be connected to a highway that will lead both to the Ascatian capital and a border subway that takes you from Ascati to Natia, which exists because there are big fuck you mountains in the way, and it was more efficient to create a big tunnel than it would have been to simply climb the mountains or pave roads up massive mountains. Today there was a lot to go over. I actually did some work off screen, but most of that work was done by my friend Magic. He's also the bug tester, if you didn't hear. He created 3 maps that I then altered a bit to fit more with the game's current style of pathing, before adding encounters to them and all that cool stuff. And after that, I added this little highway rest stop area nearby Millstone. I really like this area because it was here where I really felt like I was making a large interconnected world. It's not done yet, but it's really starting to get there. I also added a new enemy in the form of the very powerful Yeeto. I would go in depth on what this enemy can do, but the name explains itself for you. I also got around to adding a cool little car vent so the highway isn't fucking empty all the time. So that's really cool. I've never actually done that before. Today was my last day of spring break, so once I got back from a mandatory doctor visit, I worked on the game for roughly 3 hours. And during this, I added the international subway on the Ascatian side. It's at the end of the highway to the left of the capital, and you can use it to get to Natia without a portal or teleportation station. However, there is no version of this on the Natia side, so it does nothing at the moment. I also added the interior, where you are actually going to buy tickets and do stuff to go to the other side. And just to make it so the player doesn't have to walk all the way there, I added a guy in both the city and the building that will drive you to and from the capital. When you talk to him, he does this for free. So if you don't like doing the enemy encounters, but you don't want to buy repels, you can just ask him to take you there. If you're wondering why that took 3 hours, there's actually a reason. You see, I am easily distracted. That's it. That's the reason. Today, I got around to adding a mechanic from another game I really like. I'll keep it a secret for now, but for a little hint, try interacting with random rocks in one of the desert maps. Something cool might happen. Anyways, after that, I got around to adding a new desert map. It will eventually be connected to the capital and some other locations, but for now, it's somewhat unfinished. With the top of the cliffs having no decorations and stuff, you know, I'll probably get around to decorating it later. Today was a great day for development. I finally got around to finishing the paths that connect the Tari and Frare together, and I finished the map I made on the 18th by adding this upper cliffs, and then I got around to making an entirely new map on top of that. After that, I was about to overhaul the city of Sylvanda, but I realized that making a big modern city map in a country that only recently gained wealth wouldn't really make sense. So when expanding the map, I instead had the expanded part be a construction zone. This place will contain like side quests for the player and more, and eventually, maybe late game, this construction will finally finish, and instead, the city will be a complete large city with buildings and whatnot. But for now, it'll stay as is. And that's it for progress I've made over March. I was gonna do some work on the 23rd or 24th, but I realized I will probably need more time to make this particular devlog, so I decided to skip out on that. But with that aside, let's take a peek at the future, shall we? So, what do I plan on doing over the next year development? The answer to that is, well, I don't really know. I don't want to make too many plans now because I don't want to end up not completing some of them, but at the very least, I want all of the capitals on land to be connected by land, and after that, I would like to add the last two capitals, which I am now, for now at least, calling the Sky Place and the fucking Ocean, which is where their locations will reside. Along with that, I think I might add some paths nearby the ocean capital, along with more water enemies, because I feel like we're lacking a bit in that category. After that, I would like to expand on space time a bit to make it more like an actual area with inns and shops and stuff, but not like a traditional kind of town or anything. It'll be tackled differently. I would also like to add this area called the Colosseum of Space Time, which is a temporary name. And the whole thing is inspired by the Colosseum of Fools from Hollow Knight. You'll have waves of enemies ending with a unique boss, and after that, I would just like to add more quests. Because quests are cool. They're fun, their rewards are awesome, and they're just a nice little thing to distract the player if they're getting tired of the main plot. After that, I don't actually know what else I'll do. I don't even know if I'll actually be able to do all that in 1 year, but we're gonna find out. And I can't wait to do so. And that is it for this video, guys. It's been a strange 2 years of development, but I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on this. I hope everyone likes it as much as I do, but I'm also not going to get my hopes up too high. But that's besides the point. Thank you all for watching this video. Thank you for keeping up with the development of Project Frost and Flames. If you want to see more, you know, the standard crap, like, subscribe, you know, all of that. But with that aside, thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next devlog. Peace, nerds.